What is up, my people? Guys, I am so like y'all don't even know. And I'm gonna give you backstory so that you can try to understand the joy, not to create a pun 8 seconds into this broadcast, but guys, I'm gonna introduce her as Sara Chapple. That is not how I know her.
No.
Because quite frankly, since you became Chapel, we haven't really got to spend much time together because I know you as Sarah Shields, which was your
Yep.
maiden name. Guys,
Yep.
I worked with Sarah. We worked at a church together for what feels like a bajillion years,
A
but
bajillion
it
years
also feels
ago.
like a bajillion years ago.
Yeah. I don't know how that's
And
possible, but
I don't. We're neither one of us are old enough for that to
uh-uh.
have worked in our timelines. But guys, I love this person first and foremost. I love this person. You guys are going to love her. And I just love if I can let anyone borrow my influence to make the world a better place, I am all about it. And so we don't do these types of videos a lot, but this is unique because when a friend, and I don't say that loosely, like when a real friend writes a book, like what the heck, we got to talk about it. And so Sarah,
Yay.
welcome to, I don't even know what the title of this is, but
I
welcome
don't know.
to my world on social media.
Thank you, Kyle. I am so happy to be here. And yeah, feel the same way. You were babies, basically, when we
There's no
were
doubt.
working together.
I could barely grow facial hair back then. And now,
Pretty much.
I have a full beard. So,
I think
um,
you were a teenager.
I was close. I was actually close. So, Sarah, you wrote a book called
Did.
Journey to Joy.
Did.
And I'm always curious when we choose to do things. Like most people aren't the first to write on a subject matter. Right. So like it's not like there's not a book out there about joy. And you were like, wow, how has no one ever written about joy before? This is crazy. I'm going to. No, there's plenty of books out there. There's podcasts about joy. The Bible talks about joy.
Oh,
But you decided that God had put something in your heart that you needed to get on paper. And so talk to me, like out of anything you could have written about, why joy? And like let's just start there.
cool. So you pretty much word for word just relived an actual conversation that I had with God multiple times in this
Okay.
process of all of the books just that have been written in general. Like, why do we need another book just at all?
Yeah.
And then, why joy? Why me? That became another part of it of, why do I have to do this? I loved teaching and I enjoyed writing. I always did enjoy writing articles or like a blog post or a devotional. So these,
Yeah.
small projects. And the idea of writing a book was never on my to-do list, bucket list, no writing books, because I knew enough to know it was going to be a massive, long
Sure.
suffering, take another
Yeah.
phrase from the Bible, long suffering project. And I was not interested in any of those things. And so there was a lot of back and forth. My husband had a sense about it before I did, and he was encouraging me in that direction. And I was spending time doing other things. I got certified as a Christian yoga teacher. I was
All
studying
right.
Greek and I was studying French. Like I could make a list of all the ridiculous things that I did to fill my time while I was choosing not to sit down and write this book.
Yeah.
So the process of, being on this journey to joy, it was happening in my life. And then I felt God just pushing me to write about it. So once I finally agreed, okay, fine, I'll try this, I'll write this. Then that was 4 years ago. So it,
Oh
it
my gosh.
wasn't something that I sat down. Once I agreed to do it, I did kind of think, just because I didn't know what I was doing, I did kind of think, oh, in a few months I'll have a book. But
Nope.
that's not how life works. So the crazy thing about Journey to Joy, there's really two journeys in the book. So the one is the process that God really took me through to find joy again. And
Yeah.
then his invitation to share that, because it's not something unique to me. It's about him and what he wants to do, I think, in all of our lives. So then what happened though at that same time was my dad had actually gotten sick. He was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease at the beginning of all of this. And what I didn't know at the time was, as God decided he was going to be teaching me about joy, I was going to be walking with my dad and
Mm.
helping him and caring for him up until the point he passed away. And so those two things ended up happening at the same time.
Wow.
And at the end of all of that, God really brought that whole picture together of how we all need joy. Either we had it at one point and we lost it, or we have it but there's still always more, or we never had it. And so discovering
Yeah.
what that really is, how we can access that every day, and even more importantly, how to access it in the really, really tough seasons, which is what we ended up doing. And so I started to get on board with the idea that, okay, I think he wants to do more than just teach me about joy. I think more people need to hear this. And I started having conversations with people and finding out, man, they have similar situations that I have and similar stories. And so we all need this. It's based on scripture. It's not just about Sarah, it's about God and what he wants to do. So
So talk to us about, like, where do we go wrong with joy? Like, do we just view it poorly? Therefore, we're chasing something that isn't real. Like what? How do you go in the book to explaining, like, truly what joy is, and then how do we come into agreement with that every day?
yeah, absolutely. So I think, yeah, you've always got that tension between happiness and joy, and what's the difference? And I think joy, the kind of thing that's available for us, I talk in the book about the day that my dad actually died, and that there was a kind of joy that I experienced that day. And to some people, that sounds really strict, like, how, what's wrong with you? You got joy on the day that your dad died. But
Sure.
obviously, I believe the Bible is the source for truth for everything. And so if
Yeah.
we look to that to find the definition of joy, there's a beautiful array of picture of all the different kinds of things that the word joy actually means. And so one of the words that describes joy in the Bible is this idea of calm delight. And so it's really this sense of peace and in being at peace and being okay with things, and not being in despair, essentially. So
Okay.
even in the middle of tough times, even on a day like that, like your worst possible day, there is still a kind of joy available, because I think God's available to us all day, every day.
Yeah.
And so what we do though is we tend to find happiness or these happy experiences in, things, in, when my life is hitting on all cylinders, when I get through this difficult season. That's what I realized at the beginning of my journey was I was happy, but there was like a deeper sense
Mm.
that I was missing, that I knew I was missing. So I had gotten married. Like you said, I was single for a long time. So you knew my maiden name.
I did
And
not say the long time part, just so
well,
we're clear. That is not what that is
it's
not what
all
I said.
relative to me. 35, 36 felt like a really long time to have
Sure.
to wait.
I just
But it
wanted
was,
people to know that that sounds
you
like
didn't,
that's rude, and I did not I
you
did
did
not
not
say
say
that.
that. It's okay. It is what it is.
Doesn't make it
But
less true, but you
doesn't
said
make
it,
it
not
less
me.
true. I said it. It's fine. And so even though I didn't mean to, what I found out was there was a sense that I thought that, being married, having the family, all of that was going to fill in a piece that I had realized was missing, but I didn't realize I kind of thought it would come with marriage and family.
Yeah.
And I say this in the book, like I was happy, like I checked all the boxes, like everything
Sure.
was good, but I just had this sense that there was still something a little bit off. And so we had a vacation, we had just gotten married, we were going to take a trip with the kids. And how this whole thing started was I was imagining that vacation, and I was imagining myself on the vacation. And so I was imagining how I was going to feel. And I was just doing this game where it was like, I just knew I was going to feel lighter, and I was going to feel a little bit happier, full of joy. Like I was just going to
Yeah.
be a different version of myself on this trip. And I could just feel it with everything inside of me. And I realized that day number one, I realized I had done that before, that it was this game that I played often with
Okay.
myself of like, oh, when this difficult season ends, I'm going to feel like this person. Or, oh, when we're on vacation, when I'm on this trip, you know what? I'm just going to be lighthearted and carefree and happy. The second realization, which was hard to accept, was that I never became her in the present. I could always
Mm,
imagine what she felt like somewhere in the present or in the future, but I couldn't manage to get that version of me and like in my kitchen version of me together.
wow.
And so it always eluded me. This and I could feel it inside, but I just could not be her in the moment. And so it was in that day I felt like that God really was with me in that moment and said, "You know what? You're right. You can feel what it's like to be her because you used to be her. You used to be that carefree, lighthearted, full of joy person, but some things happened, life happens, and you lost it. But you weren't supposed to lose it. And if you'll let me, we'll go on a journey and we'll get it back." And so he was
Wow.
just inviting me into a season of healing in the areas where I needed to find healing and freedom, just all the things that God has for us. And then in that, going through those processes with him, the joy started to grow. I started to realize I am this person now. This thing I thought always eluded me, suddenly I was able to express it and I was able to feel everything that I felt like I couldn't feel before.
So it sounds like, sometimes looking for joy, we have other things in its place that God needs to kind of remove from our lives, whether it's a past hurt or a past pain
Hmm.
for, an action someone took or the
Yeah.
loss of a loved one. Like if you're kind of coaching the people watching, like what's that first step into like the even realization that something is in the place of where joy could be? Like how do you even like what does self-discovery even look like for that?
I think, well, like it was for me, it was recognizing like I know there's more. Like it's just this nagging feeling of I can just feel it on the inside. I want to be able to express this. There's just an I know there's another level to it just felt like there was a lid on it, like something was holding me back. And a lot of it was everything that you just said, life where we live in a broken world. And
Yeah.
so we have all experienced hurt. We've all had things done to us, and we've all made decisions that maybe weren't the best. And so the one of the analogies I use in the book a couple of different times is the idea of a grill. So after I got married, one of the things I learned was how to grill. My husband is great on the grill. He taught me everything he knows, and I love it. But part of the thing with grilling is the cleanup.
Yeah.
So if you cook a great meal, then you've got a layer of grease that it's not even just like on the grill, it's all around it. And you really need to clean that up each and every time you use it. Doesn't
Yeah.
take very long. You can even just probably grab a wet paper towel and wipe it down and you get it back to square one. Everything's gorgeous. But if you leave that layer one time and then you go back and you cook again, now it's going to take a little more work to get back to square one, to get back
Right.
to that shiny grill.
Yeah.
And so I believe life is the same way. As things come and as things happen, we got to process that. We got to process that with God. We've got to process that with trusted people
Yeah.
to get back to square one, to offer forgiveness where we need to offer it, to receive it for ourselves, to make sure that we're getting back to square one, to that healthy place.
Well, it's funny that you use that analogy because I don't clean those layers on my grill. And
Hmm.
a couple weeks ago, while grilling for friends, my grill caught on fire and it was quite the show. Um, would have rather that not happen. And
Yeah.
so
So I could go back and actually use you in the book because
that's
that's
right.
what I say is if you don't deal with it, if we don't deal with the stuff in our
Yeah.
lives, eventually you can get to that point where you have a full on grease fire and the whole thing goes up in smoke. And then you really have a lot of work to do, which again, God will meet us wherever we are. So if we're in that place where everything is just ash and dust,
Right.
there's still a redemption story. He still wants to meet us right there and get us back to square one,
Oh my
clean,
gosh.
bright, shiny. So
Yeah.
that's great.
100%. And so talk to talk to the person watching that, like, they've almost given up on
Mm,
just the thought that like joy can even be in their life. Like, too many bad things have happened. They've made too many mistakes. They've tried to find joy before and failed. Like, what do you say to that person that, and maybe you felt like that person for a season. I know I felt that way.
yeah,
And so what do you say to that person to help them even find enough encouragement to buy the book,
yeah,
because there's still a glimmer of hope that they can get back on that journey to joy.
yeah. Um, that's such a huge part of my story, and uh, that was such a part of the conversation I had with the Lord of, God, I know people who radiate joy. They just like wake up in the morning and I think they get out of bed and birds are chirping and
Yeah.
the drapes, that, but that's not me. Like that's
Yeah.
just never been me. That's never been my story. And so I thought, God, why would you want me to write a book about joy? Because being in the dark places of depression has been a very real part of my story. And it's a big,
Mhm.
big part of the book. And I talk about that in a lot more detail than
Yeah.
I would have wanted, but felt like
Sure.
God wanted to push me to put it out there. And so to be someone who walks in joy, but to be someone who struggles with depression, like those are not opposites. Those things go together. And
Yeah.
one of the things that I wrote in the beginning was what I wanted people to know was that in those places of despair, that there's always hope. That there there just never is a time or a situation or a place where there is not hope, where there is not a step that we can't take out of that, that God will always meet us right where we are. And that I know and believe with everything in me that we have an enemy that wants to take us out and wants to convince us that our life doesn't have value and that there's nothing left to be done. And just that those are massive lies, that
Yeah.
if we didn't have value, then the enemy wouldn't be wasting his time with us. But our every single life matters. Like God wants to do something in us each and every day. And so for people who are in that place, it's just, I think it's just asking you to trust me, to just believe me, to know that there is hope, that God is so real and that he is so right there with us, even when we feel like he's not. It feels like there's nothing to look forward to. It feels
Yeah.
like there's just nothing good and there's never going to be anything good again. That those feelings are real, but they're not true. And so being able
That's
to
good.
separate those two things, like this is
Yeah.
real, I feel it and it's real, but it's not true. And so being
So
able to
good.
push through what I'm feeling to say, but this is what is true. God is real. He has a plan for my life. He loves me and he has more for me than this. And choosing to say, I believe that even though I don't feel it. There's a quote in scripture that says, Lord, I believe, but help my unbelief.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's that verse is such a gift because for all of us who have been in that place to be able to say, okay, I do believe, but I also, it's also really hard. I believe, Lord, but help my unbelief. To just say that, to just say that to him, God, I believe, but
I
help my
love that.
unbelief, and to just take that step. I believe in the local church with everything in me. They're all filled up with imperfect people who love God and who are doing their best. But I believe in the local church, and I believe in getting plugged in and letting people help us walk through those seasons, being a part of the body and allowing the body to help heal itself when somebody is hurting and in need. So I talk in the
I
book
love
about
it.
all the resources that are available.
Yeah.
I'm reaching out. I'm walking with a girl right now online who's in one of those seasons, and just knowing somebody's there. Like I'm here. I'm on all the places of just letting somebody know, like you're not alone. I have been there, and you will get through this.
Well, and I just love, Sarah, that, for me now that I'm in the business world, I'm around people every day that all they've been told that matters is the award, the
Hmm.
accolade, the finances, the freedom, the vacation home. Like it's just a constant race
Yeah.
to see who can accumulate the most stuff. And you and I know this, but a lot of people don't understand that that is not where joy comes from. It doesn't make those things bad,
No.
but joy is not something that comes in the form of, $100,000 car or a pay raise. Joy is far more spiritual and deeper than just those surface level things. And so I love that my audience now isn't full of a bunch of church people, right? That's not who my audience is. And so they don't get as much of this, but they need it the most,
Yeah.
because happiness is fleeting. And so I'm excited personally to read your book. But I'm excited to share your book with people,
Thank you.
because why would I try to say what you've already said very well? And so, Sara, how can people connect with you? How can they find the book? What does that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So on Instagram and Facebook, I'm at Hey Sara Chapple, and would love to connect there. On my website, which is sarachapple.com, which you've got the cool
Yeah.
scrolly thing at the bottom. That is where the book can be pre-ordered currently. So we're doing pre-orders through my website through the end of July, and then the book will drop on Amazon August 18th. So right now
So cool.
there's a companion journal that goes with it. And then we put together some really fun bundles. I'm having way too much fun. I've got to stop adding things to the bundle, but we're doing like a coffee mug and pens and just all the fun stuff. And so those bundles, there's about half of them that are left. We're only doing a limited number of those, and so
Okay.
there are still some available today. So I just encourage people, if that's something they think they might be interested in, to go ahead and grab those. But pre-orders till July 31st, then we'll get to shipping, and it'll be on Amazon August
Woo!
18th.
So real quick before we wrap up, talk us through the companion journal. Like
Yes.
what value does that bring to the table that we might miss if we just buy the book?
Yeah, so I'm all about application. I don't necessarily like a good idea if I can't do
Yeah.
anything with it, if it's not going to change anything. So I love journals, and this journal takes so there's four main areas in the book. So we look at healing, freedom, identity, and purpose. And so
Love it.
walking through each of those areas. And so in the journal, it gives us the opportunity to each day, it guides you through, it's a very guided devotional. And so you've got a scripture for the day. You're able to kind of set an intention of thinking
Okay.
about, okay, looking for joy today, and all the practical things that we can find in life that bring joy. And then we look at each of those areas every week to see, okay, I've walked through this journey. How am I doing in the area of healing, of forgiveness, of freedom, identity, purpose? And so it's almost kind of like a checkpoint every week to see, did anything happen this week? Do I need to process? And we talked about the layers
Okay.
on the grill. So there's an ongoing bit to that.
Yeah.
And so the journal walks you through that. The other thing that the journal does, and that I introduced in the book, is this idea of mini joy journeys. And so it's just the idea of being super intentional. The world that we live in, especially in the last year, we've been indoors a lot. And so these joy journeys that we go on, these just kind of little mini field trips, are invitations to go try something new, to get outside the box, have a new experience, and inviting people every month to do some kind of a mini joy journey, whether it's, a museum or going to a park or taking a hike. It's thinking outside the box, but it's
I
being
love it.
intentional, and then being aware of God, like being aware of your creator, and going and enjoying these experiences, and realizing how much we see him and feel him and are aware of him when we're looking for him. What
Yeah.
we look for, we find. And
It's
so the
good.
journal just gives you an opportunity to put this into practice each and every day. Have this few minutes in the morning to read some truth in scripture, have some reflection time, listen to worship music, and then set that intention for the day. Like, I'm going to choose to look for joy. I'm not going to do the grumbling and complaining and negativity, but just setting that intention for the day and walking it out, and then seeing the joy grow as we do that.
So good. So good. Well, I
Yay!
I think I bought the book before you even announced the companion journal, so I'm gonna have to go back and buy the
Okay.
companion journal. Because I only have the book coming to my house
Oh,
when it releases. So I'll go get the other. Sarah,
cool.
I'm so I'm so proud of you. Um, I've
Thank you, Kyle.
loved
I'm so
watching.
proud of you.
Well, thank you, but this isn't about me. This is about you.
Okay. Okay.
And so I've loved watching you on this journey. And I think it would have been easy for a scholar, for a psychologist that's literally studied what joy is for 30 years. Like if those people wrote this book, nobody relates to that person. I don't have 8 PhDs. I don't, like I want a real human that I can look at and see similarities in myself in. And so I'm just so excited. I can't wait to see and hear the stories
Yep.
of life change. Guys, go buy the book and go follow Sarah. The way I see your Instagram handle is hey Sara Chapple.
Hey.
That's how I read it. But
I like it.
I just my family, we love you so much. We are so honored to be your friend. And I can't wait to do a video for your second book and third book and sit front row
Oh,
when you're talking to 10,000 people one of these days.
sounds good. Okay. Let's mark it. Do it.
Are you ready for that? I just spoke that into existence just right now.
Maybe in January. I'll be ready in January.
Woo! Guys, y'all are the best. Thank you for watching. Please
Yes,
go
thank you.
support Sarah. You will not be disappointed. And you know what? I'll just throw this out there. If you buy Sarah's book and you think it sucks, I'll give you your money back. All right. So Sarah you'll never lose money, but y'all just know you have a money back guarantee through me that if you don't like it, I'll give you your money back. And I'm confident
No
in that
pressure.
I probably won't be giving any money back, but I will.
No.
So go buy the book. Sarah, you're the best. Thanks for being on here with me.
You're the best. Thank you, Kyle, so much.
You're welcome. Bye, guys.
Yay.